Camera's rolling.
Baby, I'm too young to know any better, but I guess I'm just too old to care. I'm waiting on the morning light to clear the air. Now the sky is on with regret, letting go that you may black. All the silence that keep me coming back. I'm the one that you hated. You know, the one you didn't want to believe. The one that you hated. Take a look at it now. I'm the mess you created. The one that you hated.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dad Talk Today. Booyah! Are you doing all right? How are you doing? We are continuing on with our Dad Talk Today classic. Man, we've had some good shows. We watched Tito Ortiz earlier this week, finished up with Ted Nugent yesterday, and today we're going to have our number one watched podcast over there on YouTube. Been watched like over 250,000 times, guys. Any fans of Lizard Lick Towing? So just to give you a little background, we do this festival every year. I go up there and help the promoter. He's been really good to us, man. It's like a Dukes of Hazzard festival, right? And that's where I met Mr. Ron Shirley from Lizard Lick Towing, and we really connected. And he's a pastor and does a lot of good work for kids and stuff. But I didn't know it when we was setting this up and talking. Just like a month after the second time I had met him, his son was murdered, right? And our show got the exclusive on that. You know, it was really, really sad. I think he is a great guy, great speaker, very big heart. So I think you'll definitely enjoy this. Going back down into the vault with that. If you would, guys, right down here, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. If you'd like to support the show, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. That's Cash App, Venmo, and Patreon. Other ways you can support the show. There are subscriptions and memberships over there on YouTube. We got the same thing on Facebook. Please do that over on YouTube. It helps us be able to continue what we're doing here on the show every month that you do that. And you get these cool little emoticons that you could use. Also, have you had your coffee today? Dad Talk. Have you had it today? Anyway, I don't know. I was trying to think of something clever to say. I can't. Just a little bit of humor before we get into this very heavy podcast. It's one thing when we're talking to you parents about some of the stuff going on, and I'm going to dip down into some of the controversial stories we've also had on Dad Talk coming up next week. I'm not gonna lie to you, some of the hardest stories that I've done, but this was one of them. You know, even though he was a very well-known guy, here it is. It goes to show you, doesn't matter how old you are, what your color is, your financial preferences, or whatever. This kind of stuff can happen to everybody. Now, this wasn't family law related, but I can't imagine losing a child. You know, I'm trying to make sense out of this and find the words, but I don't know that we can. But if you would, and please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ding that bell so you get the notifications of when we go live. Right now, let's see if this is playing on Friday. Right now, we are on our way to California. We are leaving Colorado, and we got 4 days there, and then we'll be headed off to Detroit, guys. We are taking the mission across the United States of America and doing everything we can to get this word out. Can you do me a favor? This is 12 days that this whole team, there's 5 of us that are going out there that are spending 2 weeks away from our families to be able to do this and to get this message out. All we're asking you to do is like, share, subscribe, welcome people as they come into this community, and let's make this movement what it was called to be, man. Let's do it. All right, guys, at this point in time, I'm going to pull this down, and we're going to get to this interview. It's very, like I said, very emotional. And we're just going to hop right back into it. I would say, hope you enjoy. It's nothing to enjoy about this, but I was very honored that Ron would come and give us the lowdown on this on Dad Talk. It really means a lot to me. Let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Dad Talk Today. Got a special episode with you. This is a gentleman I have gotten to connect with the past 2 years at an event called Hazard Fest, and we've been wanting to do this show for a while. Unfortunately, there's been some, some events over the past couple of months, and we'll be dipping into those today. But I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Ron Shirley. Ron, how you doing, man?
Bo, I'm getting old, fat, and ugly, but I'm so good at it, I think I'm going to stick with it a few more years.
There you go, man. So, you had the show Lizard Lick Toe, and tell everybody what that was like for you, man. I'm sure that changed your life in many ways.
Bo, it was a whirlwind of knowledge and a whirlwind of understanding because we didn't know a whole lot, and we sure didn't understand a whole lot. So we were inducted into just the whole facade, the whole, it was unbelievable. You go from one day, we country's a baked bean sandwich, honestly. We just regular old folks. One day you just chilling out, Sizzler or Ale House or wherever you eating your food. And the next day, Bo, you can't even go get a meal, but the fans are great. Man, it went to 16 countries and 6 languages. So God really blessed us, man. So, I have no complaints about it. It just, nobody prepares you for the ride up the mountain. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. I was going to talk to you a little bit more about that and some of the things we talk about family values here, the importance of being a father and, some of the unfortunate events since the last time we got to talk is we just found out, about the murder of your son, Alex. Could you tell everybody a little bit about what's going on with that? And condolences to your family, by the way. I can't imagine what that's like.
Bo, I will tell you that, I rest on Hebrews 11:1. I rest on Psalms 91. There's so many things that we rest on with our faith, and now that's honestly what we have. And it's definitely an adaptation to our lifestyle. About a month ago, he was sitting in a car at a balloon release for another kid that had died earlier in the week in a car wreck, and he was in the car with 4 other individuals. And 2 gang members decided to come up behind the car and unload on them, put 20 shots in the vehicle, somewhere between 7 or 9, entered my son. He was gone on the spot. I mean, it was, one went in his head, one went in his heart. He had several upper torso shots. And, the girl beside him still has 2 bullets in her back. Her name's Sophie Hagee. And she's paralyzed from the waist down, 20-year-old college student, just a wonderful person. The other 3 people in the car did not get hit. People can say what they want. People can believe what they want. I don't care what nobody believes. I really don't. The Christ I follow says you love everybody. Buddhist, Muslim, satanic, agnostic, atheist, it doesn't matter, man. We're called to love people. So I don't care what anybody believes, but, I have a hard time not seeing there's a God when there's 20 shots in the car and pretty much he's the only one that dies. There was definitely some supernatural stuff going on there to save the other children. They rode down the road, pronounced him dead on the scene. She went to the hospital. It's been rough. I showed up that night at the scene, started getting on my social media, trying to find some people that would talk. Within 12 hours, we had an arrest. So far, we've had 5 arrests. There's 1 more to go, but honestly, buddy, vengeance is God's, not mine. And God does promise me justice in one way or another, whether that come in my lifetime or in God's sovereignty. I don't know. But, I can't go back to the lifestyle I used to live. And so, Big Sur is going to serve a purpose. We're going to try to do a lot with his life as well as do a lot with his death, man. And it's been overwhelming, but the support's been astronomical, and God has really just carried us through, to be honest with you.
Ron, I got to ask you, because we've had some of the fathers that's reached out, and that have had some similar situations, and it's not one of those like I can try to relate, but unless you've been there, it's kind of hard. What was it like getting that news, and what have you done to try to keep your head in the game and process all of this?
I'll be honest, Bo, I haven't broke yet. I'm pretty open about that. I'm the leader of the house. I've got a 24-year-old daughter. I've got 16-year-old son. I've got an 11-year-old daughter. I've got a wife. I got parents who are his grandparents, other grandparents on my wife's side. And so, my job at this point is to be a stone, to be a foundation. And so that's really helped me to have a purpose, to have a goal, to have a reason every day to not break, because, I mean, we're all allowed to grieve. It's just not my time yet. So to be able to support the children, to be able to encourage them, to be able to hold my wife, to be able to hold my parents, his uncles, his aunts, his cousins. I mean, we were all real close. So, it's been great to have that purpose. And it's been really hard. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's like trying to nail a raw egg to a tree with a railroad spike, but
Right.
it's been what I needed, to serve a purpose right now, and to just have something to do each and every hour. So you don't just sit around and, question why, or question who, or how, or when, or, to get in the car and go back and seek retribution. And that's the things you don't want to do. So as easy as it is to do, to get in the car and go try to serve justice yourself, man, if I have a goal and a purpose, it keeps me here doing what I'm supposed to do. I think, honestly, what God called me to do.
Yeah, man. And, and I respect that answer so much. The fathers are the leader in the household, and they've got to hold that together. You're carrying the rest of the family with you. Tell us a little bit about what fatherhood means to you, and being that leader of the house. I know we've had these conversations off camera, but I'd love for everybody to hear, your opinions on that.
I tell everybody, anybody can be a daddy. I mean, I've always said that it takes a real man to be a father. A father doesn't always mean blood. There's so many men who have stepped into the lives of children that are not their own and become their fathers. And, I think that part of our society just suffers because we don't have fathers. So many single family houses, man, so many kids growing up without direction. I firmly believe in punishment now, whether it's a belt, restriction, whatever. I mean, you still have to, consequences, actions, all actions have consequences. Somebody has to be there to enforce that. But you also have to do that with love, understanding. I mean, we've all been kids, I mean, we've all, everybody walks a different path. Some of us walk in the mud a whole lot. Some of us walk on gravel roads. Some of us walk on pavement. Some of us stay up in the dirt. Me personally, I was always in the mud and the dirt, but it doesn't change fatherhood. These kids need a role model, but they need a role model who cares and loves them. They don't need somebody to just come in and set down rules and just be a dictator. They need somebody who can set down rules and be a disciple and kind of teach them. I heard a saying many years ago that said, look, don't prepare the path for your child. Don't go cut the branches and smooth the walk and try to make all the little stones and pitfalls, fill them in. Don't do that. Prepare your child for the walk. Don't prepare the path for the child, prepare the child for the path. And I firmly believe that, man. And I'm a big advocate of foster care, just great foster families, and just, I look up to my father every day as my earthly father, but I more so look up to my heavenly father. And, it's just, man, without a parental guidance in your life, it's really hard. And I mean, you see a lot of single mothers trying to be mother and father, but you can't be both. And, I hate to say that, you can try and you can give it 110% effort, but you can never be both. That's why there are two of them. And it's just a shame. So many people want to be daddies and make babies, but then they want to roll out like a fart in a whirlwind, and that's not how this life is supposed to be. We're supposed to take care of ours. And even when it's not ours, you're supposed to help take care of it,
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think we had this conversation too when we was talking about you. And then you got the other side of that token. You got these guys that are wanting to be dads, and then they make their way into these family courts where, this woman's keeping their child away from them, and they are spending every dime they've got trying to be in their child's life. And man, I tell you what, for a man on the other end of that, trying to fight that, it almost feels like a losing process many of the times.
I know each state's different. I'm in North Carolina. The only way you will get a child away from the mother if you can prove her unfit. Doesn't matter. And you have to be able to prove her unfit. Doesn't matter what you know, it's what you can prove. And, I've been in that situation myself. Me and Amy fought many a legal battle over our children. Just because we wanted to have them more and we wanted to be more involved in their lives. And we were fortunate. We got my oldest two kids. One was Big Shirley, but, we kept him at least 60% of the year. I mean, we had him, well over 30, 35 weeks a year. And that's what we wanted. I mean, I wanted him full time, but it's an uphill battle for a father. And I believe that's because of how fathers are. so many fathers, like they say, man, it only takes 3 apples to ruin the bunch. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
So many fathers set such a bad precedence by not being fathers, by not being there in the home. And so the court system, I kind of feel like always sides with the mother. And I really feel for some of these dads out there because, there's good and bad in everybody. There's good moms, good dads, bad dads, good cops, bad cops, good teachers, bad teachers, good repo men, bad repo men. But, it's always the ones that suffer, the ones that usually are the good ones because they're having to pay the penalty for taxes that are ahead of them. And that's just how life is, Bo. You got to pay your taxes. And whether they're your taxes or your daddy's taxes or your granddaddy's taxes, you're going to pay those taxes.
I'd agree. I talked to a lot of these guys, and it seems like, 50s, 60s, 70s, there was a lot of dads that were abandoning the home. And I think a lot of these guys now that are fighting that battle are fighting that stigma that was created by a generation that they might not have had something to do with. But, talking about, their dads, I think this gets passed down from generation to generation. You was talking about how you look up to your father. I'm just curious. Tell us a little bit about your dad, what it was like with him and what that relationship was like.
My dad was a working man. We all, like I said, we grew up on tobacco fields and sweat and just country. And most of the food we ate, he raised or killed. I honestly, I don't remember having a new pair of tennis shoes till I was probably 10, 11 years old. Always had hand-me-downs, but I never needed anything. Now, I might not have had the nicest of anything, but I promise you I didn't never need. No, I didn't go to bed hungry. My mom and dad made sure we didn't go to bed hungry. My dad always, whether he was working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever the family took. My dad wasn't a Christian back at that time, but my dad was a provider. And my dad, he had a fist of steel and he believed in an iron rod. And my mom was the nurturing side, the prayer side, the cuddle you up and, take care of your boo-boo side. And I think it worked out great because I think that's what it takes. It takes 2. And, so had dad not been what he was, I would have never gotten to the point in life I'm at. I don't have any regrets. I mean, I did a lot of stupid things in my life. I'm pretty open about them, but I mean, I made a lot of bad decisions, hurt a lot of people when I was younger. And my dad used to, always call me in there, sit down and talk to me. And I'll never forget our conversations because he's the one that taught me, these little quirky sayings that I use, like, even a dog knows the difference of being stepped on and kicked. He figured out early that if you looked at me and said, Ron Jr., treat people like you want to be treated. Yeah, that's going to go over like a pregnant pole vaulter. But I don't care how people treat me. I'm going to treat them how I want to treat them. But when he would look at me and say, Ronnie, even a dog knows the difference in being stepped on a kick. Well, I had a dog and I love my dog and I understood that terminology. And so I think that's one of the roles as a dad is learning how to communicate in a way that our children understand yet still respect. And, quick story, I've wore a flat top since I was, I reckon, 11 years old. And the reason I wear a flat top is because my granddaddy was a World War II tank commander.
Oh, wow.
And in World War II, his tank got hit, and there were 4 of the men in it, and it got hit, and he started dragging them to safety. He lost 1, but he saved 3. But when he went back to get the one he lost on the way to dragging him, they hit it again. And so he stayed in the hospital for many, many months, and he never talked to me about it. But when I was growing up and we were in the tobacco fields or working or picking apples, whatever, if he ever took his shirt off, he would glitter. And when I say glitter, I mean, you remember them old disco balls?
Yeah.
He would glitter just like that. And I never knew why he glittered. I'm a kid. And I'm like, Pa, why you glitter? He's like, well, don't tell nobody, but I'm really a superhero at night. So at night, I go out and I take care of bad people. These people that are doing this, that, and the other, man, these people that are abusing their wives, these people that are beating their kids, these people that are selling dope, da-da-da-da. He said, man, but you can't tell nobody, because if they find out my identity, Ronnie, then they'll make me stop. Well, up until I was about 9 years old, I'm sold out on this. My granddaddy's Superman, And then when I get 10 or 11, my daddy comes to me one day and he's like, look, we need to have a conversation. I'm like, what's up? And he tells me a story about the tank. He's like, look, your grandpa's got over 1,000 pieces of shrapnel in them, and they're so small they can't get them out. So that's why he glitters. So I don't want you to keep going to school telling people your granddaddy's a superhero, But ever since that day, man, that really is what made him my superhero, because he was willing to, and everybody there was, don't get me wrong, but he was willing to sacrifice his life for 4 of the men in a tank, and that to me, that's what being a dad's all about, Bo. It ain't about just being a dad to your kids. It's about being a dad to your friends, but it's about being a dad to your family. It's about being a dad when dads can't be around, you step in and you do the right thing. And that's what dads are supposed to do. So, you know, I wore a flat top in his honor since I was, like I said, 11 years old. And, you know, man, he was my hero, and my daddy now has kind of a similar haircut, and he's my hero. So, you know, all heroes don't have capes, but some of them do glitter.
Hey, man, I'm with you. My granddad was a World War II vet as well. Interesting question. What would you say in your dad's generation and in your grandfather's generation that we see missing now?
Work ethic would be the first thing I would honestly tell you.
Yeah.
Loyalty would be the second thing I would tell you. And honesty would probably be the third thing I would tell you. Our work ethic nowadays, as far as, and I'm not just talking about work, I mean work ethic. Work ethic at the job, work ethic at the home, work ethic in your marriage, work ethic in your relationships with your children. It's just not there.
No.
With social media prowess, you know, kids are being raised by computers, dads and moms are working so much. I just don't see that work ethic there. I really don't. And, you know, the biggest thing is I don't see the work ethic in the marriage. Man, all marriages are hard, bro. I mean, I tell everybody there's two people in marriage. One's right, the other's the husband. We all getting used to that as fathers. You know?
I agree.
But, you know, man, the thing is, Bo, is you have to put time in, because that's your family, and that's your job to raise that family. It's your job to protect that family. It's your job to sacrifice for that family. So, man, when you come home and you're tired, hey, suck it up. Spend 5 minutes with Junior. Spend 5 minutes with, you know, Sally. Spend 5 minutes with your wife. Go cook some dinner. Sit out on the porch. Teach them. Love them. Listen to their days. And I think that the work ethic at home is just non-existent. And then honesty, man. You know, the saddest day in a man's life is when he plans all day long to steal something that isn't his. You know, instead of going out and grinding for it, instead of going out and finding a better way, people nowadays are just looking scams, and dads nowadays are just looking quick outs and quick ups and quick money. And, man, you know, we're teaching our kids this. You know, it's all about the hustle. Well, yeah, it's about the hustle, but not hustling in the street, not hustling online. It's about hustling in life.
That's it.
And I mean, honestly, I think those are some of the major things that are missing. And I think if I had to tell you the number one thing missing, honestly, I think it's love. I don't think dads nowadays even love themselves. I think they're always looking at all the negativity in the world and how they don't have money and how they're not doing this right, and this kid's getting in trouble and they can't keep their marriage together. And I think the devil just piles all this on them. And what happens is they lose their love, not only love for family, not only love for tradition, but love for self. And, man, when you quit loving yourself, how can you love anybody else? You can't. You can't. So, just opinion, man. You know, that's just opinion.
Oh, no. I'm definitely following what you're saying. You know, you talked a little bit about this, but I'm curious, how do you think social media is playing into this?
You know, honestly, everybody wants to be, for lack of a better word, famous. That's the number one thing on social media is famous. And what they do is they try to be what they're not. And, you know, if we could teach our kids anything on social media, it is be who you are. Don't let social media define you. Your number of followers has nothing to do with your worth. How many people click a picture have nothing to do with your value. How many people view your video or post a comment on your Instagram have nothing to do with your value and worth and success in life. But our kids now look at social media and they'll make a post and they'll be like, oh, I only got 75 views. I got to delete that. You know, I got to do something better. And so then they start striving for acceptance from people away from the family. And a lot of times it's because they don't have the acceptance in the family. Some kids are going to be kids and they're going to do it anyway. But, you know, I teach my kids and I'm really strict on their social media. I monitor everything they do. I look at their Snapchats. I take their phones 2 or 3 times a week. I take my 16-year-old's phone. I'm like, look, I want to know who you're talking to. I want to know what you're doing, because until you're 18, I'm paying these bills. And once you're 18, you do what you want to do. But until then, I'm responsible for your actions. And how you portray yourself to this world is only a remnant of what I portray myself to you as. Now, I can't make you be perfect, but I can make you be pure. And I can make you be honest. And I can make you understand that Twitter, TikTok, Instagram are great. They're great avenues. You can get yourself out there, get your music out there, get your comedy out there. But that's not who you are. That's just a screen of what you are. Who you are is totally different. And I wish that we could just teach kids this, because, you know, man, it's a shame to see kids who get hurt over social media posts. And the bad point is there's no bully monitoring.
Right.
I mean, you can go on social media, say anything you want. Yeah, you can report it. You might, but man, the damage is done. You can tear a kid down. I've seen so many kids almost commit suicide or just get into shells or just walk away because of what people have said to them on social media. And it's ridiculous because as dads especially, we should be watching that and we should be taking up for our kids and we should be contacting other parents, be like, yo, what's up? I mean,
100%.
I'm not the toughest guy in the world, but I mean, if we need to go outside, you need to stroke some blood. And hey, man, I'll bleed 3 pints. I don't mind for my kid, but you need to check your kid. There's no need to go in there and say that stuff, man, because you're just an internet warrior. And it's a shame that people nowadays can even talk to each other like that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, my son was murdered. And the first post that I see on there is one of the guys that are affiliated with other guys. He's like, yeah, your son was a big deal. Now he's just a t-shirt. I mean, Bo, what kind of person are you to even post that where a family can see it? You want to send that to me, send it to me. Hey, I'll man up with you. But you send that to where a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, little kids can see that you just saying he's a t-shirt now because he's dead in memory of, And that's our problem, Bo, is we don't monitor our kids' social media and we let them do about what they want to do. And as fathers, it's our job to protect our children. You can't protect your children if you don't know what they're doing and where they're at. You can't do it.
I'm so sorry to hear, something like that. And that's why I bring up this conversation. Just a couple of days ago, Ron, my daughter came home telling me about a boy that was being picked on in her school, and she's in 8th grade. Over the past weekend, he went over to his granddad's house, got a gun and shot himself. And it was, these kids were on social media the next day, still making fun of him.
It's raised, man. It's, I don't know. I don't know that I have an answer. That's probably one of the saddest stories I've heard because I'm telling you, man, at 8 years old, you haven't even experienced life yet.
Hey, he was in 8th grade, but still, around 13. Yeah.
You haven't experienced life yet, man. You haven't. Oh, you don't know nothing about this world, man. The only world you know about is the world is around you right then. And, no matter what his parents did, and I mean this sincerely, man, they couldn't protect him. Social media is a gift and a demon at the same time.
Yes, I agree.
It's got so many great qualities, but it has so many negative things. I mean, don't even get on the political side of all the banning. You can't say the truth or what's real, what's not real. Just get on the side of the children, man. Just look how children are treated. I mean, for a 13-year-old kid to want to take his life, oh, how bad is that? At 13, I never in my wildest dreams would have thought about suicide at my age. I'm 49 now. I might have wanted to go whoop somebody's tail or hide in the house for a week because somebody made fun of me or whatever. But Bo, we didn't talk about. I mean, I looking back at all my childhood friends, none of us killed ourselves. I mean, you just didn't see that. Did it happen? Yeah, I'm sure it did, but you didn't see it. Now you see it daily. You see kids 10, 11, 12, 13 taking their lives daily. And I mean, man, it's sad, Bo, because the only reason that's happening is because we as adults are failing. We're failing our children, man. I mean, we're failing them. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything negative because I'm trying to have no hate in my heart. And I mean that sincerely. My goal, as crazy as it sounds, my goal is to witness to the 2 boys that murdered my son. That's my goal. I don't know why, but I think that's the only way I can deal with it is to give them a chance to at least know there is a God. They don't need my forgiveness. They need his forgiveness. They might spend the rest of their life in jail, but Bo, this life is fleeting. And that's honestly my next 2 years. That's my whole goal. But man, where are we going wrong when we're just letting our kids be treated like this? And we're just, there's nothing we can do, man. And I mean, it's social media. I mean, kids hide so much from us now. They have so many avenues. But, when we was growing up, we was poor. So, I mean, yeah, we got picked on for our clothes and stuff. But, man, we could go outside, scrap it out, and go on down the world. It doesn't work like that no more. Now somebody sees some raggedy clothes on the kid stinks. They do a TikTok video. It gets 3 million views. Well, now you ain't talking about 30 people in your neighborhood. You're talking about 3 million kids making fun of somebody, man. And, somebody really needs to put some kind of platform together to try to stop. But I don't know that that'll ever happen. I really don't, man. I don't know that we have the technology, nor the time, nor the to fight the big companies like this. That we can do a little at a time, but man, if we could help one 13-year-old like that one, just not. Hey, man, your life's worth more than that social media post. Your life's worth more than these kids that are bullying you. that's where you can make a difference as a dad. I mean, that to me, that's where you can make a huge difference.
I believe so. Back in the day, like you got in a little scuffle or something happened at home or at school, you might hear it for the next week, but yeah, now it goes all over social media, and it's gotten to a point. I do put this back on the parents. The parents need to be having these conversations with their kids and letting them know the consequences of what's happening with that. But there's the other side of that token too. When we start looking at our school system, all these things that we were taught when we were growing up that were moral, and this was the values that you need to carry. It's almost became politically incorrect to teach your kids values anymore. It seems like it's really been targeted to kind of get that out of the room.
You can't. I mean, you can, but look, I don't get into a lot of political debates. I believe that everything that happens for a reason. I believe that God is on the throne. I believe that we're headed into the end days. I do 100%. I'm a revelation specialist. That's what I study. That's what I teach. I ain't gonna say teach. I ain't no teacher. That's what I talk about to folk. But man, when you're taking first, second, and third graders and talking to them about gender identity, kids need to be kids. I mean, they need to be kids. They don't need to be worrying about, am I a guy, am I a girl? What happens if I say the word gay? What happens about this? What happens about that? What happens about, racial inequality? Man, that's the parents' job to teach them love and understanding and values and morals. And that's the problem is parents don't care no more about it. Most kids don't have parents who even care. And, I'm not trying to call, like I said, I ain't trying to call nobody out saying nothing bad, but the 16-year-old that shot my son, his mom owned a daycare. She lied and formed an alibi for her son, and then her 18 or 19-year-old backed the alibi. When parents are going to do things like that, and I'm not, hey, we're all innocent till proven guilty. I get it, but they've all been arrested. But when you raise a daycare, but yet your 16-year-old goes and shoots people, your 18-year-old lies for them, and you set up an alibi, what are you teaching the kids in that daycare? What are you teaching the kids around you? I mean, these are people who are raising our children. I mean, yeah, okay, kids are going to do things we can't control. But I mean, at my house, my 16-year-old ain't just going to go out and shoot somebody. I mean, it's not how we're raised. We're just raised a little different. I ain't saying she could control it. I'm just saying, man, what kind of example does that set for the younger children in your household? And what kind of example does that set for the children that you're in your daycare with? I mean, that's not the kind of person I want raising my kids. Unfortunately, in our system now, that's how it is. And it doesn't start at the house, and it goes from the house to the school. It goes from the school, social media. It goes from social media to sports, and I mean, there is no perfect answer and there is no perfect person. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect. My kids don't screw up. But I mean, man, what kind of raising are you doing when, your kid can just walk up and shoot somebody in the back of the head at 16 years old? And your other kid's in the same gang and he just don't care and throws up gang signs on his Instagram post. And then the boy that's with him, that mug, sending me and everybody else in the world messages, making fun of it, talking about putting them on a t-shirt. What kind of raising is that? I mean, I guess I grew up in a different world. I mean, I see harshness. I'm in the repo world. I'm in, I grew up dirt poor and I'm around dirt poor stuff every day. But there's a difference in just being poor and just having a hard time and living that kind of lifestyle. I don't understand that lifestyle, man. And unfortunately, like I said, Bo, that's all I see nowadays. I mean, you turn on the news tonight, there'll be 2 murders. Turn on the news tomorrow, there'll be 2 more murders. Turn on the news tomorrow night, there'll be 2 more murders. And out of those 6 murders, I guarantee you 2 of them will be kids. And the other 2 will be committed by kids. And man, that's the state of our union. I mean, that honest to me is the state of our union. And I think we need to stop and help. I think we need to start loving these kids, man, and showing them that there are other avenues, there are other alternatives. That, man, killing somebody don't make you a man no more. Being born in the oven makes you a biscuit, or being born in a garage makes you a BMW. Anybody pull a trigger. I give a 3-year-old a gun, 3-year-old figure out how to pull a trigger. I mean, it don't take no man to pull a trigger. I mean, that's not being a man.
No.
Not pulling that trigger is what makes you a man. Not, understanding that, man, life has value and that you can affect so many people's lives by not hating and not killing. That's what makes you a man. And I'll get in trouble for saying that, but it's just facts.
No, I got you, man. I mean, what's going on with the case right now, Ron? Kind of what's the next steps? And
You know, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I'll
Yeah.
say that. They've arrested 5. We've got 2 of the shooters. They've admitted to it. We've got the young lady that was driving the car. She's an accessory. Just personal, heartfelt belief. There was a gentleman in the front right seat of that car that was her boyfriend. It was also a little higher up in the gang than the 2 boys in the back seat. I know he's involved. I know he was. And anybody in this world can think they're a prince, but it doesn't mean, Bo, that they're royalty, and it doesn't mean that, you know, punitively they're not going to come to justice. So there was another gentleman in that car. That's the one I'm waiting to see arrested, but that's out of my hands. I'm not taking this in my hands. The mother of one shooter and the brother were arrested. The 2 kids that did commit the crime were 16 and 17, but they have been moved to adult court. It was premeditated. It was a premeditated hit. You know, supposedly they've been trying to kill my son for 2 months, but nobody will give us a reason. I think it has something to do with gang initiation, but I mean, again, I don't know, man. You know, we have that. That's the hardest part, is we don't know why. We have no idea why. And my son was not perfect. I'm not going to sit up here and tell anybody my son was perfect. My son was a great kid. He got 16, got tied in with the wrong boys, decided to go move in with his mom, you know, and I'm not saying this is her fault in any manner, but I wasn't there. When he came over here, he was the best kid in the world. But when he was over there in that side of town, he ran with a rough crowd. He got involved in gangs and drugs and everything else. And then he finally, you know, grew up and he got a job. He got off the drugs. He went to rehab. He started living his life. He got a car. I mean, it finally come around full circle. And I think a lot of that is the raising that was instilled in him as he was younger. You know, he kind of came back to his roots. But, you know, I'm not in a gang, so I don't know, but I've always heard that, you know, you don't leave a gang unless you leave in a casket. And I firmly believe my son was killed because he left the gang. He left about a year ago. And just in my heart, I mean, they won't give us an explanation. Nobody's telling us why. But, you know, the fact that he had got a job, got a car, got off drugs, was actually being a beneficial member of society. You know, I saw him a couple of days before. He was over here at the house. We're having a birthday party. And again, he was not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But, you know, he had got out that lifestyle. And that to me, man, that's what I stayed on my knees, me and my wife, every night. Just, hey, take care of him. Take care of him. He knows better. His heart is a good heart. And, you know, I honestly think that it was a gang initiation, that you ain't allowed to leave that lifestyle. And he was in the Bloods, and they say blood in, blood out. So I guess they blooded him out, you know. But the sad part is, Bo, is not just that Alex is gone. Is, you know, Haz is no longer here. Haz his nickname, Big Shirt. But there's a 20-year-old girl who never done nothing to nobody. College kid who's now paralyzed for life, Bo. There's a mom sitting over in her house with 5 or 6 kids. They used to run a daycare. Her life's screwed. Her son's life is going to be spent in jail for the next 20, 30 years. His brothers and sisters aren't going to be able to see him, talk to him, love him. There's another family, another shooter. His life is screwed. I mean, it's destroyed. And he's destroyed a lot of his family's life, man. And so, you know, that's the sad part, Bo, is these kids, and they were kids at the time. You know, they thought as adults, but they're still kids. They don't understand. They ruined not my life, not my family's life, but their family's lives, their siblings' lives, their brothers and sisters and mothers. But I will tell you what was ironic while we were in the court so far. I've yet to see one father show up. Not one. Yeah. I only see the mothers. And I'm not saying that ugly. I'm saying I've yet to see a male walk in that room beside myself and Sophie Hagee's daddy. I've yet to see a father show up in this courtroom for any of the hearings. Any of the hearings. And that, to me, is as sad as anything else going on.
Well, and that's an interesting point, because I was going to bring that up. You know, I think a lot of times we see when it comes to, you know, gang members and getting in these, is people, these guys that came from these fatherless homes, they're looking for somewhere to fit in. And they think this is the sense of community or something that it is going to give them that. And it's not. I'm just, you know, curious, Ron, there might be one of these young gentlemen that are thinking about getting in one of these gangs, or that thinks that this kind of stuff is cool, and they're contemplating this. What's something that you could say to them, you know, with this happening to your son? What could you let them know what, what those actions feel like and what they could be getting themselves into?
You know, all I can say to them, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that nobody's there to make you feel loved, and I'm sorry nobody's there to make you feel accepted, and I'm sorry nobody's there to hold your hand and guide you through life. I am so flipping sorry, man, because I was lucky. I had that. My daddy had that. My son had that. My family has that. And you know what, man? Not every family does, Bo, and from the bottom of my heart, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that somebody won't step up in your life and be the man they should be, man, and teach you. And that the streets are the only option that you have many times. And I get it, because a lot of these kids don't have options. And I get that. And I feel so bad, because, man, they should have options. They should have options. But how they're growing up and where they're growing up, they don't got them. If I could say anything to them, honestly, it'd be, I'm sorry, man. And if I can help, holla. I mean, sincerely, man, I ain't got all the money everybody thinks I got, but I got enough to buy you some meals and show you some love and take you fishing and take you hunting and tell you that you matter. I got enough to get you some equipment so we can go play football, man, so you can find a purpose, or some baseball or some soccer or swim or whatever you want to do. You know, I mean, most of these kids, man, they really, they're opted out, and their choices are so limited, and that's what's so sad. And you know, man, I'm sorry. I mean, I see it every day. I've been in this world. I've been running these streets, the in streets, the out streets, from the sticks to the bricks for the last 25 years. I mean, I've been in every high-end neighborhood in my county, and I've been in every ghetto and low-end neighborhood in my county. And you know, I feel, because I see the kids outside at both these neighborhoods, and I know what kids get opportunities and what kids don't. And it has nothing to do with the color of their skin. It don't have anything to do with the color of skin. It has to do with the color of their parents' hearts. You know, man. And if I can help any of these kids, and I mean that sincerely, I mean, man, there's a program out there that needs, man, I ain't nobody, but, we did have a TV show. I come out and speak for free. I come out and encourage kids for free. I come out and do whatever I can do to help these kids, man, because every day, man, my son ain't coming back through the door, and my son had options. Every day, my son ain't coming back because some other kids didn't have many options. And like I said, I ain't saying they didn't have no daddies, but I ain't seen one yet. And I can promise you this: if my kid was in court, I would be there. If my kid was in a hospital, I would be there. If my kid was in surgery, I would be there. And so the only thing I see is these moms showing up, and that just kind of tells me, man, that their family lives probably are not very stable. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm just misreading it. But, man, I'm sorry. Fellas, I'm sorry. But your life's worth more. Your life's worth more, Bo. Your life's worth so much more than a gunshot. Your life's worth so much more than a bag of dope. Your life is worth so much more than flashing some money on Insta and trying to act like you big pimping. Your life is worth so much more than that. You have no idea. You think that's money? That's not money. You see all these boys stacking these hunters up their arms. I got some money. Man, that's your re-up money. And we all know this. You got $3,000. That's not money. And that's not going to change who you are or what you have, Bo, because I don't care if you drive a Porsche or a Pinto. The man that steps out of the vehicle is the man that steps out of the vehicle. It don't matter what kind of vehicle he's stepping out of. And that, like I said, that's, everything you see on social media now is you got to have the big chains. You could put a name on your chain. Hey, I'm going to put a body up on this chain, and these kids are learning this stuff, man. I'm going to be driving the fly cars, the whips with the spinners, man. I need some 32s on that mug. And, it's ridiculous what social media is teaching our kids. And what I notice in all these social media posts I see and all these videos, ain't no dads. You'll see them, it's hilarious, man. Watch a guy on TV score a touchdown. I love you, mama. What about your daddy? Where he at? See there? I mean, it just makes you think, man. All these kids have so much lack of support. I'm not going to say lack of raising, it's lack of support. And, when other men try to step in and raise these kids, a lot of them are already too hard-headed. And it's kind of hard because the streets got them. And, man, I don't have an answer. I really don't, except help them and love them like I said, I don't hate these boys that murdered my son. I'll tell you straight up, they were cowards, and I'll call them cowards to their face. Because when you walk up behind a man sitting in a car with 4 of his friends and you shoot him 20 times into the car, that's cowardly. But it doesn't mean you're any less of a man. Might take me a little while to forgive them, but I'm not going to hate them. And it ain't my forgiveness. They need no way. It's God's. And man, I just, I wish there was a lot more daddies in this world and a lot more father in the daddies' lives in this world. And I think these kids would at least find some kind of avenue, somewhere they could go, something they could believe in, something they could trust. I mean, like I said, I ain't got an answer, man, but for me, the only solution I can see is God and a better family structure and a better father in the house. And, somebody who doesn't come in and just beat them. I mean, we can all beat somebody, but like I said earlier, even a dog knows the best friend to be a step on the kick. And if you come home every day and beat your dog, one day you're going to come home, your dog ain't going to be there. I promise you, he's leaving. Kids are the same way, bro. You should always treat a kid better than a dog.
Yeah. Ron, I think that's probably the best way to end it, getting that out there. And, condolences to your family and everything that you're going through. I'll definitely make sure to, let guys know what's going on, and we'll be keeping our eye on it to keep everybody updated. And until then, if everybody wanted to keep up with this situation or keep up with what else you're doing, where can they follow you?
LizardLickTowing.com is our website. All our social media is on there. I thought about canceling all my events, but honestly, we got 3 events this month. And we're going to be at each one. I got one this weekend. So you can go to LizardLickTowing.com, has all our events, has our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, everything, mine and Amy's. And, honestly, we talked about just kind of laying back for a while, but, I just don't feel like that's going to do anybody any good. Maybe there's somebody out there that needs to see us at one of these events and talk to us. Maybe there's a mom or dad who's lost a child, doesn't understand. Kind of like how you started this conversation. She said, I have no idea, what you're feeling. I can't tell you how many parents I've towed in their children's vehicles that were deceased and stood out there and said the exact same thing. And until you go through it, you can sympathize, you can empathize, but it's hard to relate. And now I can relate. I'm there. I know what it's like. My kids know what it's like. My wife knows what it's like. So, we decided to go ahead and do these events because, man, maybe there's somebody we can help. And when I say somebody, I'm hoping it's kids, man. I'm hoping to be able to change lives with Big Shur's death. I want to use his story. I want to use his life. I want to use his heart. I want to use the fact that in his death, he can bring true life, eternal life to other kids. So no matter what happens to them or what they do, even these 2 kids that killed him, hey, man, God loves everybody. And I mean that sincerely. He doesn't differentiate between who gets to go to heaven. You can be a murderer. You can be a chicken egg thief. You can be a liar. You can be an adulterer. You can do the top sins, the bottom sins. God doesn't put a value on sin. Sin is sin to my God. And, man, my whole goal is that Big Shur's death brings some eternal life to somebody, just one person. If it does, man, it serves the purpose, and I can live with that.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, Ron, I think that is a good place. I think we should get you into some schools to talk to some of these kids, because if we can get to that generation, we can end it.
I don't know that we'll ever end it, but we can sure put a dent in it.
We can put a big one. Yeah.
It's like anything else, man. In this country, we're never going to stop drugs. We're never going to stop violence. We're never going to stop the things that are going on. But boy, we can sure put some dents in them and set up some walls. And that's where it begins, because then it gives kids outs. They have options. They have outs. They have outlets. They have, man, they can see that, Alex, sorry, he's got a 16-year-old brother. And I'm sure every day that boy comes home and wants to go put a bullet in somebody. I'm sure he does. I mean, it's his brother. But every day I watch that boy come home and pray for the kids that shot him. And I know he hurts. I know he does, because we all hurt, but maybe it'll teach some kids, man, that there's options, even during times of pain and sorrow and just the most devastating hurt you can imagine, that there's still options and there's still people who care. And there's other people that have been through it. And we all got to get through it in our own way, and we all got to kind of find our navigation, man. But hey, if somebody ain't got a ship out there, and somebody ain't steering the rudder, and somebody ain't laying the board down to say, hey, climb on, man, let's take you across the river, what options these kids got, man? I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy, but
I'm with you. Ron, I appreciate you so much coming on today, man. And I hope everything goes well with this, and we'll definitely be following it and praying for your family.
that's the best thing anybody can do, man. God, you know, I tell everybody, I'll end with this right here. When all this happened, I just wanted to look up and ask God, where were you? I'm faithful. Where were you when my son died? Where were you when he sucked his last breath? Where were you when those bullets were ripping into his body? You know, I wanted to ask him, but I couldn't ask him. Because when my son died, I made a phone call to one of my best friends, who's also my pastor, my mentor. And before I could even tell him how I felt, he said, Ronnie, let me go ahead and tell you something. You're going to want to know where God was, ain't you? You're going to want to know where God was standing when your son died. You're going to want to know where he was at when your son took his last breath. You're going to know where God was when they were killing your son. I said, well, I ain't going to say that thought ain't crossed my mind. And they said, Ronnie, God was in the exact same place he was when he watched them murder his son. He was in the exact same place he was when they took his son's last breath. He was in the exact same place he was when they stuck the spear in him, stripped him buck naked on a pole in front of his mama. And he had to sit there and let it happen. He chose to sit there and let it happen. So, you know, man, I'll end with that, because God is still in the same place. And I take a lot of faith in the fact that my God is in the same place when my son died that he was when his son died. And my son and his son up there together. So one day we'll see him again.
Everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. And Ron, thank you so much, my man.
Hey, man, take care. Get lit. Love life.
All right. Hey, everybody, Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also super chats, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here, and